So the Avengers 2015 movie is finally here. Oh, wait, I'm not talking about that Avengers movie. I'm talking about Avengers GRIMM. Avengers GRIMM? What the hell is that, you might ask? Well, let me tell you, this is an asylum picture. So that right there should tell you all you need to know. And I've got to say, if I'm the Disney bosses, I'm probably a little bit fuming about this movie because it kind of takes two things what I primarily sort of looked at as Disney properties, this being kind of the princesses, like the kind of the fairy tale princesses, and obviously a play on Marvel superheroes, and kind of mashes them together basically to make this quite interesting sounding mockbuster. So the premise here, I've got to say, had me intrigued, and basically the basic plot is it starts off in this kind of fairy tale kingdom, and we have Rumpelstiltskin played by Casper Van Dien as the kind of the bad guy who's been at war with these kind of princesses, and you've got Snow White who's I guess the kind of the leader, you've got Rapunzel, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty, along with kind of Red Riding Hood, who is technically not a princess but she's kind of allied with them, and basically Casper Van Dien's kind of Rumpelstiltskin character essentially finds a way to get into our world where he feels it'll be easy to take over because obviously he has magic and powers and stuff, and essentially it's then these princesses are sort of transported into our world and try and stop him. And on kind of Rumpelstiltskin's side, he's basically got this kind of army of zombie-like thralls where he basically kind of enslaves people with magic, and he's also got the big bad wolf, and he basically makes a deal with a kind of an earthbound criminal played by Ferrigno to make him some kind of like metal henchman, or shall we say an Iron Man. So essentially it's a kind of an action film really, with these kind of princesses have these sort of vaguely defined superpowers that basically they use to try and defeat Rumpelstiltskin's evil plan. And the superpowers, I've got to say, are pretty funny because they're very kind of vaguely defined. Snow White can kind of has sort of ice related powers, and one of them has just random stuff like making a gate out of thin air and things like that. It just seems to be whatever the plot needs, the powers they'll have and things like that. Some of the princesses are actually played by members of Team Unicorn, which is actually kind of this online female geek group basically, and this is obviously one of their sort of forays into acting that they kind of sometimes do. The acting here, when we're on the subject, is a kind of a bit of a mixed bag. Obviously, you've got Casper Van Dien here, who is a fairly, experienced actor at this point, and I actually found him quite fun in this role, and I actually quite liked him as the kind of the suave Rumpelstiltskin. I'm sad to say that Ferrigno really was just here as a paycheck, and his role is relatively limited, and the princesses themselves are kind of a mixed bunch. I've got to say Snow White, who is meant to be the kind of the leader, I actually found her quite unlikable. Doesn't really come across as any type of character that you can kind of get behind. In fact, not any of them do to a point. I guess the most interesting one is probably Red Riding Hood, who's kind of like this kind of rogue member who isn't part of the kind of the royal bloodline. There's actually quite a lot going on, to be fair, with this movie, because you've got like Red Riding Hood's kind of got her own agenda against the kind of the big bad wolf, and you've got this kind of this kind of strange sort of sub-rivalry with this sort of the Ferrigno sort of criminal gang who ends up sort of aligning with Rumpelstiltskin and things like that. So there's a fair amount of kind of things that sort of go on here, but a lot of it is kind of illogical and just kind of slapped together, as you'd probably expect with kind of most asylum pictures. But it still has actually this kind of element of fun to it, I have to say, and it's quite amusing sort of seeing all these weird sort of plot points put together. I've got to say, I really wasn't buying any of the female cast as kind of princesses. They certainly didn't kind of, they weren't sort of selling themselves as any type of like fairy tale princesses and things like that. In fact, they all seem kind of quite sort of bitchy American Valley girl types, to be quite honest. There's quite a lot of action in this movie. Obviously, you've got lots of CGI muzzle flashes and stuff like that, so don't be expecting anything, too fantastic. But it's a fast-moving film. There's always quite a lot going on. I think, a lot of what saves this film is actually Casper Van Dien, because he hams it up so much as Rumpelstiltskin. It's actually quite sort of fun to watch, and these sort of zombie-like thralls are actually are quite fun as well. It's a completely forgettable B-movie, but nonetheless, I still think it's kind of fun to watch if you kind of, you know what you're going in expecting it. Obviously, it is really trying to cash in on both the Avengers and the kind of the superhero sort of craze, really, by having these princesses defined more like sort of superheroes with powers and things like that. And obviously, again, the other part of it is trying to have these sort of princesses, which are primarily known for the Disney movies, in this kind of one movie that is, I guess, meant to be for everyone. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. It's an enjoyable but forgettable B-movie romp, which is not going to kind of win any awards, and it is in no means kind of particularly good on any level, but it's serviceable. So 5 out of 10 for me. What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.